Thank you very much for this nice intro. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming to my talk about unleashing vector search with Hibernate and Oracle AI Database 26 AI. My name is Juarez Barbosa Junior. I work for Oracle as a senior principal Java developer evangelist. I'm coming from Dublin, Ireland. I have over 30 years of experience in information technology, software engineering, and DevRel mostly. You can see here some of the companies that I worked for in some interesting roles. And I'm a frequent speaker at developer conferences because, of course, I'm a dev evangelist, so that's what I do, right? I go to conferences to deliver talks. I participate and organize meetup sessions, hackathons, workshops. I create content, blog posts, code samples, and so on. Of course, it's not a talk about my profile, experience, and background, so let's get started. This is our agenda for today, okay? I'm gonna talk a little bit about GenAI and why it is important. Pretty much everyone understands and knows about GenAI now. We started 3 years ago with the mass adoption of GenAI with ChatGPT and OpenAI, but it's important just perhaps as a kind of level setting exercise for us. Then I'll talk about the Oracle Database 23 AI and something called vector search and the new vector data type, and that's extremely important because we are talking now about a world where we should actually enable searches that can work with unstructured data, basically images, videos, and PDF files, documents, everything. And of course, the core topic of my talk will be to talk about the Hibernate Object Relational Mapping framework, or library, if you prefer, and how to use it with Java. And another example, beyond the Hibernate-related ones, will be an example with Spring AI, where you can actually understand the benefits of having the vector data type and a vector data store, vector database like the 26 AI. And after that, I want to show you some of the technical resources that I prepared. All the code samples here, I have blog posts that explain step by step all the details of what I'm gonna to present. And you can also access the respective GitHub repos. So without further ado, let's start. Oh, I forgot to mention it. My talk is not about low-level statistics, math, all those things. I'm not talking about creating and models, training models, and fine-tuning. I want to enable application developers and software developers to be productive with AI, and I would say take advantage of all the abstractions that we have with the so-called open source frameworks, including Hibernate. Okay, so speaking of GenAI then, we can see here I created these couple of images this morning just to show you that at the end of the day when we talk about generative AI, it is because we are creating synthetic content, right? And it's important for us just to touch on that because, when I talk about vectors and vector data type and a vector data store, vector databases, we should actually ingest unstructured data and use a specific model called an embedding model to create the floating point vectors, the so-called embeddings, to enable, I would say, something called semantic search, right? It is not only about working with SQL, ANSI, structured query language, if we are talking about relational databases, to retrieve and work with data, right? That's why GenAI is enabling that. You can see Belgrade in Serbia pictured in a kind of cyberpunk, futuristic cityscape here, just as an example. But yes, that's it. With GenAI, we have pretty much the same software components and algorithms, no tricks here. But of course, we have the specific models called the transformer models. The acronym GPT, the T stands for transformer, right? And on top of that, we have this creation of this synthetic content that I talked about, including code. I think everyone nowadays is using the code assistants, right? GitHub Copilot, plenty of code assistants, right? We started by actually driving the interaction, okay? With things like, you are programming, so you get code completion, I would say block suggestions and so on. But with tools like the ones that we have now related to vibe coding, we are actually reversing the role. You act in a kind of a reverse shadow now. You go and you just provide a prompt, or perhaps in a better way, a specification to the assistant, and then the agents will create the code for you, an entire solution. So you are essentially driving a kind of artificial programmer, right? And that's interesting because some people, they say, oh, but Gen AI is ridiculous, the code that I get is not of good quality and so on, but of course, but it depends on the quality of your prompt. And now there's a new technique. Many people, they talk about, DDD, domain-driven design by Eric Evans, the famous book, but also TDD, task-driven development. But now we have something called SDD, spec-driven development, okay? And there's a nice framework by GitHub called SpecKit. Basically, SDD, you can create a specification that's basically a markdown file and with some sections. And then in order to get a very meaningful result, in terms of quality, the goals that you want to achieve and everything, you have to specify clearly, the libraries, the frameworks, the specific versions, the design patterns, what you want to achieve, what to avoid, the components that you want to touch, because that's a problem when people go vibe coding. They say, oh, but the agent modified many files that I was not supposed to actually, I would say, work with. But that's a new technique, and I have to talk about it. The generation, as I said, is usually the result of an input prompt, and there's a new area called prompt engineering, and now SDD as well. And of course, as pretty much everything in tech, we have many ethical issues, deepfakes, misuse, cybersecurity, cyber criminals. I'm not going to explore those in detail, but at the end of the day, the rogue hackers, the so-called crackers, they love technology. It won't be different with Gen AI. My purpose here, as I said, is to enable you to create Gen AI applications, and that's our focus, okay? And that's why I want to show you how easy it is to use those frameworks and the technology that Oracle created to achieve this goal. And just to mention, there's no better time for you to be a software developer, because with all the tools that we have now in Gen AI and so on, some people are too worried about, the problems with jobs, and replacing people and software engineering and so on. But if you think about it, AI is now becoming a commodity. What happened with those old systems, on-prem data centers and applications? We moved it to the cloud, right? So it was extremely difficult for you to deploy a system at scale, 20 years ago or so, because you needed to acquire the hardware, and have all the technicians to assemble the hardware, and create the networks and also all the governance and everything. But now, with the cloud subscription and accounts, you go, you select the services in, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, you are good to start a new project. With AI now, and with the advent of OpenAI and ChatGPT, we started to have that. Because now, ChatGPT, they encapsulated all the complexity regarding the AI models. And it's extremely expensive also to run models at scale, because we are talking about GPUs, some GPU processors, they cost $30,000 each, right? So all the data centers, the super fast networks, and the governance, the CAPEX, the upfront investment, and maybe 3 or 5 years later, you need to modernize your data center. But now, all the cloud players, including the Oracle Cloud Platform, we are offering that, as a service, regardless if we talk about it as platform as a service, PaaS or SaaS, it doesn't matter, right? So it's extremely easy for you to now think about solutions with AI, and that's nice because regardless of your business vertical or market niche, healthcare, telecom, energy and utilities, you name it, you can just look at your business processes decomposed into use cases and the functionality, and understand where you can infuse AI to actually, deliver better productivity, automate processes, eliminate waste. In software, we have Six Sigma and many different, processes, methodologies to do those things. And now you can use AI. Two concepts here. The first one is AGI. Some people, they say that in 2027, 2030, we will achieve this AGI thing, artificial general intelligence. That's when, all the skills and the capabilities regarding those models, they will be at the same level as us humans, on par with humans. Because nowadays, for some model types like, TTS, text-to-speech, you can, generate voice and speech. You can also interpret language. They are at the same level, but other areas are still evolving. But at the point where all the different skills and capabilities will be at the same level, that's AGI. And now in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, they say that it is the water that people drink over there, I don't know. They are talking about something called ASI as well, because ASI will be when, those models and the solutions combined, they will be more capable than the 8 billion people that we have, So that's really a trend as well. I just wanted to talk about it. Last thing, robotics, because at the moment we are focusing on solving the intelligence at the brain level, the digital, the software level, but the ultimate vector of AI and this technology is actually the physical AI, the physical intelligence, okay? So robotics, what we experienced decades ago, regarding manufacturing plants and industrial automation, PLCs, programmable logic controllers, CNC robots, and so on. We are about to see an invasion of, IoT and robots, regarding all the different sectors in this society. And it is happening at the moment, Go verify what is happening in China as an example, or even in Silicon Valley. There are so many startups and companies in Japan as well exploring robotics and so on. So that's the thing. Speaking of the solutions, we have the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. I will talk a little bit about it later on. I just want to show you that we have this GenAI service where you can also, connect to the cloud and use pretty much all the open source models, but the commercial ones as well. They are encapsulated with good dashboards and SDKs and REST APIs, all the tools that we love, okay? And that's available as part of our cloud. And let's move now to talk about this Oracle Database 26 AI. Over 300 major new features. It's impossible for me to talk about them in 30 minutes, but I just want to highlight the first core pillar here. It is actually AI for data features. This database, there's a free version of it called the Database 26 AI Free, okay? It's the same upstream component and the same database that you get when you go to the cloud and provision a database instance. The only difference is that the cloud version of it, it is called Autonomous Database because Oracle started to infuse AI into our database, I would say 7, 8 years ago. To perform those recurrent DBA tasks, like, performance tuning, security patching, index optimization, and so on. But you can use the free version of this database, and with this QR code, there are versions available as a Docker image, your VirtualBox VM, you can use Podman, Rancher, Docker, whatever, to use it. And if you develop a solution with this database, you can just change the JDBC Java Database Connectivity URL and deploy the application to the cloud platform, and it works out of the box with no modifications at all, okay? The focus and the core of my talk is AI vector search. Let's have a look at that. Many building blocks here, as you can see, this block diagram, but at the core of it, again, I want to focus on AI vector search. So let's have a look at what AI vector search is about. Okay, as I explained, traditional databases and with SQL and relational databases, we used to focus on, I would say, queries and value-based searches, right? So when you have a SQL query and the where clause, you have a search key, right? And then you retrieve the result set and the records that will actually match the filter that you specified as part of that where clause, okay? But with something called semantic search now, it's different because first we have to operate and retrieve data that relates to something that I talked about, and that's why I talked a little bit about GenAI, unstructured data, videos, files, images, audio files, and so on. And then we need this capability of performing a vector search and a semantic search. So you can see here a representation of a video. Okay, that's enabled by a vector data type that we created for our database. It can act as a vector store. That's why it is also called a vector database. Okay. This is the representation of what we call dimensions, okay? So when you get this video, actually, you get an embedding model, okay? And some people think that, okay, a model from OpenAI or Cohere or Meta, they are all the same models, but no, we have models for chat completions, for text, we have models for text-to-speech to generate audio, and we have models for embedding, okay? And with this model, an embedding model, then you can compute the so-called dimensions, okay, and create a vector of floating point values and store that as something that we call an embedding. And there are several distance calculation formulas that you can use then to actually create the queries, the semantic search queries, to retrieve the data. And that expands the capabilities, you know, and you can imagine the number of solutions that you can create with vector search and semantic search, right? Nice thing regarding the Oracle database, we encapsulated all the distance calculation formulas, okay? Even if you are not using a framework or a programming language like Python or Java, or I don't know, LangChain or LangChain4j or Spring AI or Hibernate Vector, okay? You can just use plain SQL or PL SQL natively, provided by the Oracle database, and the formulas we extended the SQL language to have the formulas ready for you out of the box, okay, and that's a good thing. You can create GenAI solutions with SQL or PL SQL only, okay, because Oracle, we want to give developers, you know, all the choices to create these GenAI applications. So a couple of examples here, a support incident. I will perform the calculation of the dimensions and create a vector out of it. And then we have a support incident related to desktop crashing and a couple of ones related to desktops that are running slowly. And then I can run searches and understand, you know, from the analysis of that unstructured data if they are similar or not similar. And that's fantastic because now you see here, okay, if I ingested, you know, data, unstructured data about animals or states in the United States or even, you know, fruits, with a tiger as an example, you can see there's a technique called RAG. I'll talk about it shortly. But you see that the tiger, you know, will go to the set of animals, you know, it falls into that quadrant. And that's how you start to perform, you know, and realize the benefits of having this functionality, okay? This is the high-level overview of this architecture and all the possibilities. You can see the famous open source frameworks at the bottom of this image. My presentation, as I said, you know, it has a technical resources section, so you can navigate all the building blocks here and really understand what's going on behind the scenes. In terms of the similarity search, there are several different metrics that you can use. Just as an example here, you can see this cosine similarity search. Okay, so this one will actually measure the cosine angle between the two vectors to understand how similar they are, regardless of the direction of the vectors, okay? And that's how you can then enable the comparison of that unstructured data. Another example here with the Euclidean and the Euclidean square. Key takeaways here, we have you know, this new vector data type. You can use SQL and the extension pure SQL to create these applications, but of course, we can use also the Java frameworks, Spring AI, LangChain4j, semantic kernel for Java by Microsoft, and also Hibernate Vector. Next step here, let's talk about Hibernate and the Oracle AI Vector Search. Oracle, we contributed code to all those projects, including Hibernate, okay? Who's a Java developer here? Cool, nice. Oh, wow, okay. Yes, so we actually worked with the Hibernate team to encapsulate all the complexity of these mechanisms, okay? And we contributed the code to the project, okay? So it is just as easy as adding a single dependency, right? And then you can use HQL, the Hibernate query language, and the functions that we encapsulated at the Hibernate level that you can use. My code sample will show it, right? To encapsulate all the functions that I talked about and all the distance calculation metrics and functions and so on, right? And of course, the creation of a vector table, you know, it's a fluent interface that we Java developers love, right? So it's extremely easy. With just a couple of lines of code, you can just create your vector table with a vector data type as a column, and then you can ingest the data, and then you can run the semantic searches, okay? Just to give you a glimpse of the functions that I talked about, you can see again cosine distance L1, you know, L2, Euclidean, and so on. That's actually a screenshot from the Hibernate documentation that we contributed. And then let's have a look at some demonstrations, okay? It's the perhaps the most interesting part of my talk. By the way, this QR code will take you to the blog posts and the code samples as well. First, I just want to show you how to create a vector table. Okay, you can see here DDL, pretty much the same SQL language, okay, but there's a new vector data type here with a number here, and this float 64, that's the data type. This number here is actually the dimension, okay? And when you actually inspect a model, you get a model, I don't know, from Meta or Cohere or OpenAI or Anthropic, right? The model, as part of its spec, has a dimension, so you have to match and actually align the dimensions, okay? Otherwise, it will be really difficult for you to debug it. So pay attention to this detail. And I have ingested the PDF file that you can see here. You know, it's a technical guide by Oracle, what's in Oracle Database 22 AI for Java developers. So I can just run this query here, and you will see actually that I retrieved the data. And if I scroll here, you will see that this column is actually where I have the vector data. Effectively, the floating point, you know, vectors, you know, the embeddings that I talked about, okay? That's the first part of it, but speaking of Hibernate now, okay? My first example, we just create, you know, this is Hibernate properties, or you can use a YAM file as well. First, I specify the details of my Java database connectivity connection, okay? So no tricks here, you can see the JDBC URL here with some information about authentication. We happen to have a connection pool called UCP as well, Universal Connection Pool. Which is extremely optimized, not only for the Oracle database, but you can also use it with open source databases like, you know, MySQL and so on, right? As an example, if you are working with Spring and Spring Boot, the default connection pool is Hickory CP, right? But with these properties here, you can just override Hickory CP because UCP will give you more options in terms of the knobs that you can use to further optimize your connection pool. But anyway, speaking of the code, it will be a surprise for you. Let me maybe just amplify here. Yeah. How easy it is to work with this API. First, I'm using Jakarta persistence here as well because Jakarta is, you know, is the former Java EE anyway. But in terms of the specification of my entity, I have one entity annotation here and table where I specify the vector column here, as I showed you regarding the DDL query. And generation identity, ID, and generated value, and then I specify the column where I want to have the embeddings, and again I have the vector float 32 here. That's what I showed you regarding the query as well, along with the dimensions, right? Given that it's just a plain entity, I'm using here just a POJO, but it could be a Java record as well. And my example first, I will just show you how easy it is actually to run some queries. So it's extremely easy here, no tricks here, and actually, you know, we DevRel guys, we try to create examples that can resonate to people at all levels, junior, mid-level, senior, principal, and so on, because we just want to highlight features. I'm not teaching you the best practices in software engineering, design patterns, you know, and blueprints, those things. You can see I will insert 5 vectors, and then I create this entity. I will set embedding and first save the entity, and then I will update the vector and then delete the vector. I can run it in debug mode, and let's do it. And okay, first thing, yes, let me just do maybe this. 5 insertions, okay, so I will read the vector and I can log the details of this vector, okay? So you can see here, if I go to the database and I run this query here, not this one, sorry, yes, this, yeah, you can see the vector here and the ID is number 1. You can see the values here. So the second example, it is as easy as that. I want to update the vector, so instead of 1, 2, 3, I have 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to run this update here, okay? And then if I run the query again over there, you'll see that it got updated. So it is Hibernate as usual, right? No tricks here, okay? And next step here, okay, I will just allow it to delete the vector, and that's it. That's the first example. And the more elaborate one is actually my second example here. By the way, I have blog posts that will present all the details on how to configure this application and the API, point you to the documentation and so on. This second example is a little bit more elaborate. Hibernate properties is the same configuration, so I'm going to skip it. The entity also mapped pretty much the same way, but now I have 2 columns, okay? And I'm calling the embedding 2. And yes, with this one here, I just want to show you how to use the functions, okay? So the only thing that I want to highlight, you can see Hibernate query language here, and I'm using the cosine distance function, okay? So it's extremely easy for you. All the complexity is abstracted and encapsulated, okay? And I can just run again some queries here. Let's do it. First, I will add some data. Let me see. Oh, actually, no, I should have executed it in debug mode. So let me do it again, just because I want to highlight a couple of things. All right, initialize the database. Yeah, it's over there. So if I run this second query here, account, yes, with 100 records. So now I can just execute some vector searches. The first one, cosine similarity search. That's the query that I presented. You can see it here again, okay? And then I will get the similar vectors, okay? So at this point, of course, I'm just showing you the high-level API and the low-level details in terms of the vectors. But I have, one last example here, a more interesting example, okay? But before we have a look at it, because yeah. This technique RAG, okay, retrieval augmented generation, it's needed because when you deploy a model at scale, you know, let's say I deployed a model 6 months ago, and if I ask about a happening, a recent event or incident, something that happened yesterday, I will get answers, but imprecise answers, wrong answers, okay? So RAG allows you to actually augment the context of this interaction by ingesting additional documentation. Okay, so, and that's useful because if you work, I don't know, for a telecom company and you have historical data about support cases, right? You can just create vectors out of that and use RAG to augment the context of your interaction, so you can create a super intelligent chatbot that will provide really useful answers to your customers, okay? 3 blog posts here about, from my colleagues in the US. I do recommend you to have a look as well. By the way, I'm a DevRel guy, so you can just approach me here at the conference if you have additional questions. I can take questions at the end as well, or of course you can reach out to me on social media. Feel free to contact me. Okay, I'm totally friendly, and I'm more than happy to also facilitate a copy of my deck if you want. RAG, at the end of the day, again, read unstructured data, convert that into tokens, create embeddings, okay, and store that as a vector database. And that's the example that I have. I will ask a question to Spring AI about our database, 23AI, using a node model, okay, and I will get an imprecise answer, and after that, I will ingest a PDF file, that technical guide that I showed you. And then I will ask the same question again and get better answers, okay? And that's my last demo, actually. So let's do it. I just need to start the Spring application here. And what is it? Yes. First, a direct interaction, okay? I will ask a question about the database 23 AI. Let me just check if I still have a connection here. Yes, I do. So Oracle here, and actually to be quicker, I can just copy it from here, this question. And let me do this as well. So ask now. Hopefully, the demagogues will be on my side, supporting me. Yes, I could have streamed it. Yes, I got an answer, but it relates to 23C. That's the previous version of our database, 23C Cloud. Okay, so it is not totally correct. So I'll do the same thing now, but now it involves RAG. Okay, so I ingested this PDF file, a technical guide, and you'll see that I will get better results then. Okay, so again, I can just ask this question here, but now it is not a direct call anymore. Okay, just an interaction with OpenAI with no RAG, but now it is involving RAG. RAG has two steps. Data ingestion, I ingested the PDF file, and then data retrieval, okay? And that's what I'm going to present now here. So let's do it. Interestingly, I can also get some answers like, I have no idea about 23 AI and so on, because it is non-deterministic, okay? The interactions with LLMs are like that. You see that I got now an answer about 23 AI, and if I look for a feature here, I will show you that actually if I go to that PDF file and look for the information, it is actually here. So I ingested this PDF file. Last thing, okay, quickly here, this application is extremely straightforward. It's just a plain Spring application, okay? The entry point, controllers and services. Perhaps the most interesting part is the vector store. And actually, I have some utilities here to ingest the PDF file, all right? Okay, so just to close it, and then I can take some questions. AI is more than, you know, the application level, software engineering, software architecture level. We also have the solutions architecture level and DevOps, LLM ops, AI ops, you know, ML ops and so on. So, you know, and regardless if we are talking about model training, which at the moment is the side of Gen AI, which is demanding more computing resources, but at some point we are now moving to having more AI-enabled applications, so AI inference will become the main workload, okay? And this blog post is interesting. I always provide all the sources. You can also check all the building blocks and understand the different parts. If you are interested in things like DevOps, like me, you know, my master's is actually in DevOps. I love DevOps and site reliability engineering as well. I just want to talk about Oracle Live Labs. We have over 700 free workshops, really free, not only about Oracle technology, Java, Python, Golang, JavaScript, Linux, okay? So you can go there, oracle.com/livelabs or developer.oracle.com/livelabs or livelabs.oracle.com. This program here, Oracle ACE program, a program for distinguished community members. So if you are a meetup organizer, if you deliver talks like this one here, okay, if you create code samples, blog posts, anything, please feel free to approach me. I can work with you to understand how far you are, and I'm more than happy to nominate you to become an Oracle ACE. 3 different levels here regarding the interactions and collaboration with Oracle. At some point, I will invite you to go to conferences, present to customers, to developers, pay your trip, you know, tickets and a hotel, you know, depending on budget, of course, but it's there for you. And last thing, we have a cloud platform, and with partnerships with, you know, Azure and also OpenAI, we have, you know, we are participating in the Stargate project. So we are building now the largest GPU data center in the world in Abilene, Texas. And Stargate, we have customers also like OpenAI and xAI and We have Uber, we have Zoom running on top of this cloud platform, redesigned and actually designed from scratch years ago. We used to have a cloud platform, but we created this cloud with no mechanical disks, SSD disks, terabits networks, total separation of the control planes and the user environments, extremely secure, and that's why we have so many partnerships, good partnerships now. All the technical references are here for you, including what I presented with Hibernate today, also Spring AI, and also reactive strings, if you like it. Just look for my name, Juarez Junior, or LinkedIn, or go to Medium, or Oracle Developers on Medium, the Java tab. Pretty much all the blog posts that are there are mine, okay? And that's it. Thank you very much, and I hope you like it, my session. Thank you.
No, wait, show us the QR code. That was too fast. So, quick reminder, you have 15 minutes for a break, but before we go, here it is. Please take a picture to get the slides and all the references. And you've taken it. I see you. You're doing great. Good. So, oh, there's a few more. See, you went too fast. The rest, very good pace. So, see you here in 15 minutes, folks. Don't forget.
Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the conference.